Hi everyone, today I wanted to talk about ear infections, which are generally called otitis media in medicine, even though otitis media specifically refers to a middle ear infection, but a lot of times we just call them otitis media. So otitis media or ear infections are particularly common in children, and I'll explain why later. Our middle ear is located just behind our eardrum, and it's connected to our nasopharynx by something called the eustachian tube. This tube is important because it helps equalize pressure and drain fluids from our middle ear. But when it becomes blocked, which can happen due to colds or allergies or sinus infections, this fluid can accumulate and it creates the perfect breeding ground for microbes like bacteria to grow here. So there are many different bacteria can cause this, but common bacteria that cause this type of ear infection are Streptococcus pneumoniae and Haemophilus influenza. These bacteria can go up from the nasopharynx through the eustachian tube into our middle ear. Streptococcus pneumoniae is unique in that it has a thick capsule around the bacteria, and this prevents it from being eaten by our immune system, which helps it evade our immune system. It's good for the bacteria, it's bad for us. Haemophilus influenza bacteria can produce enzymes that break down IgA antibodies, which also make it hard to fight. So when these bacteria infect our middle ear, they trigger an inflammatory response, they trigger inflammation. That's the pain that you feel. And mast cells and macrophages in our middle ear, white blood cells, will release cytokines and chemokines, which will recruit more white blood cells to the site of infection. This results in the production of pus, which is a thick fluid that's composed of dead white blood cells, bacteria, and cellular debris. The buildup of pus increases pressure on the eardrum, which also causes pain, redness, and usually a fever because your body is trying to fight something. So that is otitis media. There's also otitis externa or swimmer's ear, which affects the outer ear canal. This is caused by prolonged exposure to moisture, swimming, which can disrupt the protective lipid layer of the ear canal. And this allows bacteria like Pseudomonas aeruginosa, Staphylococcus aureus, or other bacteria to invade. The bacteria Pseudomonas aeruginosa is known because it has the ability to thrive in moist environments. It also causes bad lung infections, and it produces biofilms, which are communities of bacteria that stick to surfaces and are resistant to antibiotics. Biofilms protect bacteria from both our immune response and antibiotics, making infections harder to treat. So Pseudomonas infections are not the easiest to treat. On a cellular level, invasion of these bacteria leads to damage of our epithelial cells that line our ear canal, and this triggers an innate immune response where epithelial cells will release antimicrobial peptides and cytokines, and these attract more white blood cells, which try to destroy the bacteria. This also ends up leading to inflammation, which causes the ear canal to swell, leading to pain, redness, and sometimes you smell a bad smell from the ear. So if you smell something bad, whether it's an ear infection or your urine, that's bad. That means that microbes are growing. One important thing to understand is that these ear infections in general are common secondary infections after a viral infection. So viruses like the ones that cause the common cold or flu can infect the upper respiratory tract, this area, including the nasopharynx. And during a viral infection, the eustachian tube can become inflamed and it can swell, and this disrupts normal drainage. And so this can cause a secondary ear infection where bacteria can grow here. So fluid will accumulate. The fluid buildup will provide a nutrient-rich area for bacteria to grow in, and it's also harder for your ear to naturally clear itself. So the immune response to this viral infection can weaken your body, and this also makes it easier for bacteria to cause ear infections. So when you have one infection, it's easier to get other infections, secondary infections. Also, some viruses can directly damage the epithelial cells that line the respiratory tract, which includes the eustachian tube. This damage can disrupt the mucociliary escalator, which is a way that our body clears microbes from us. So without this effective clearance, bacteria that are normally present in the nasopharynx can more easily go to the middle ear and cause infection. Now, ear infections are generally more common in children. The reason why they're more common in children is the eustachian tube in children is shorter and its shape, it's more horizontal and narrower. And so this anatomy makes it easier for pathogens like bacteria to travel from the nasopharynx to the middle ear and cause infection, so grow there. And children's immune cells are also still developing, so they're more susceptible to infection. So that's ear infection. Usually for bacterial ear infections, you give antibiotics as a treatment for bacterial infections. For viral ear infections, you don't give antibiotics, but ear infections a lot of times are bacterial.